Hayes stood in front of the combat training simulator, her small human frame looking ridiculous next to the hulking armored forms of her classmates. The cadet beside her was nearly twice her height, his exoskeleton humming with power. His name was, and he had already won 17 consecutive matches without breaking a sweat. The training deck was cold and empty, except for a handful of instructors watching from the observation booth above. Earth Station Prime's military academy was the most prestigious in the entire galactic system. It was also the loneliest place had ever been. She was the only human in the advanced combat program, not by choice. The academy had assigned her here probably as a joke. Everyone knew humans were the weakest species in known space. They could not run as fast as, they could not jump as high as, they had no natural armor like, they had no claws, no fangs, no telepathic abilities, and no ability to breathe in space. Humans were soft, fragile, disappointing. Commander Vex, the who ran the training program, had made that very clear on his first day. Vex was a massive being covered in metallic plates that caught the light as she moved. Her voice was like grinding metal when she spoke. "Human," Vex had said, looking down at with eyes that showed zero interest. "You will be placed in the foundational program. You do not have the physical capability for anything else. Do not embarrass yourself by trying harder. It will not change what you are." Those words had cut deep, but had not let it show. She had learned long ago how to hide pain. Now, standing before and the watching instructors took her position, got down on one knee. The match was set for 3 minutes. It was actually a mercy. 3 minutes was all it would take for to end the fight. The simulator began, came forward, not even moving fast. He seemed to think this was beneath him, moved to the side using her speed. She was not strong, but humans had one thing that worked for them. She could move quickly and change direction fast. It was not enough. Swung his armored arm in a wide arc, ducked under it but was already moving to cut off her escape. She was trapped in a corner of the mat. He pressed forward, his exoskeleton making low humming sounds as it powered his movements. Tried a technique her grandfather had taught her. She grabbed his arm and tried to use his own momentum against him. He simply lifted her up with one hand and threw her across the mat. She hit the ground hard enough to knock the air from her lungs. The match ended. Later in the barracks, the other cadets laughed about it. They sat in small groups, their alien bodies sprawled across furniture designed for multiple species. One of them, a named, saw walking past and called out to her. "Hey, weak link," he said. "Did you try to hug? Is that a human combat technique, hugging your enemies?" His friends laughed, kept walking. That night, she sat in her small bunk and opened her journal. The pages were filled with notes about training, observations about her opponents, and thoughts about the future. She wrote about the pain in her back where she had hit the ground. She wrote about the way Commander Vex had looked at her with complete indifference. But she also wrote about her grandfather. He had been a fighter before humans joined the galaxy. He had taught everything he knew about combat, about reading opponents, about using intelligence instead of just strength. He had told her that the strongest warriors were not always the biggest ones. Sometimes the ones who thought the hardest won the battles. Had promised him she would not give up. Over the next weeks, changed her routine. She woke earlier than everyone else and trained in the empty halls. She studied the fighting styles of different alien species. She learned about armor and found its weak points. She learned about physiology and how their jumping ability came from leg muscles that were not designed for lateral movement. She learned everything she could about her opponents. The other human cadets at the academy, a few of them, told her to stop trying. They worked in administrative roles or engineering positions. Those were the jobs humans could do. Combat was not for humans. But did not listen. One afternoon, Commander Vex found her training alone in the empty facility. Had not heard the approach. Vex watched in silence for several minutes as practiced a technique against a dummy, attacking the same spot over and over again. "Why do you keep doing this?" Vex asked. Her voice did not sound angry, just curious. Stopped and turned to face her instructor. "Because I want to prove you wrong," said. She did not say it with attitude, she said it with fact. Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You cannot prove me wrong. I have centuries of experience. You are a human. It is not an opinion. It is biology." "Biology is just the starting point," said. She was breathing hard from her training. "My grandfather told me that. He said the fighter always wins, not the strongest one." Vex looked at her for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away, She said nothing else. That night, the Academy announced the Full Spectrum Challenge. It was a new comprehensive test that all cadets would compete in, regardless of their training tier. It would combine physical combat, tactical decisions, and practical problem solving. The best cadets from each species would compete against each other. It was supposed to identify which species were most suited for advanced military roles. Most people thought it was designed to prove that humans could not do the job. But saw it differently. She saw it as a chance. She continued her training with new purpose. Every technique she practiced was another tool for the challenge. Every observation she made about her opponents was another advantage. Found her one day and got in her face. He was much larger, even for a human. He had family connections that had gotten him into the academy, and he spent most of his time making other people's lives harder. "I hear you are going to compete in the real challenge," he said. "This should be fun. I'm going to break every bone in your body on live broadcast." Looked up at him. "Then I guess you better train," she said, "because I am going to beat you." Laughed. It was the kind of laugh that came from someone who thought the person in front of him was not even a real threat. Did not laugh. She went back to her training. The night before the challenge, she lay in her bunk and thought about her grandfather. She thought about Earth and how humans had survived there for thousands of years. Not because they were the strongest, but because they were stubborn, because they did not know when to quit. The Full Spectrum Challenge took place in the main training facility, which had been set up with multiple combat arenas, obstacle courses, and tactical simulation chambers. Hundreds of cadets from across the academy were watching. So were instructors, administrators, and even some officers from the Galactic Defense Coalition who had come to see what the young generation could do. Was in the holding area with hundreds of other competitors. Most of them did not even know she existed. That was good. It meant they would not prepare for her. The challenge was designed in rounds. The first round was a series of one-on-one matches. Winners advanced. Losers were eliminated. The top candidates from each round would face each other in the final matches. When's name was called, she walked out to the arena. Her first opponent was unnamed, were tall, with long limbs and incredible jumping ability. They could leap 3 times higher than most species. Was confident. He had probably never lost a physical contest in his life. The match began. Came at with speed. His long legs covered the arena in seconds, moved to the side and ducked under his first attack. Was fast, but his body was designed for vertical movement, not horizontal. Every time he tried to strike at her, moved sideways, forcing him to adjust his approach. After 2 minutes of this, was frustrated. He tried to use his jumping ability to get above and strike down at her. Was ready. She at the last moment, and as landed, she struck at his knee with precision. It was not a hard hit, but it was in exactly the right spot. His leg gave out from under him. The match was over, had won. She walked off the arena without celebrating. The other competitors stared at her like she was something they did not understand. The second round faced a warrior. This one was different from the whose name was thoughtful. He watched carefully, trying to understand how she had beaten so quickly, but had incredible balance and hand-eye coordination. They had evolved on a planet with low gravity where they had to be precise or they would fall. Used everything her grandfather had taught her. She let attack first, watching how he moved, learning his patterns. Then she moved inside his range, where his long arms could not be as effective. She grabbed his wrist and used his own force against him, flipping him onto the ground. Hit hard, the match was over in 90 seconds. 2 wins, had 2 real wins, not against training dummies, but against actual combatants from stronger species. By the 3rd round, word had spread. People were paying attention now. The human girl from the foundational program was actually winning matches. Her third opponent was a warrior named Thrace, were the heaviest species competing. Their exoskeletons were designed for extreme strength. Thrace was confident, just like all the others had been at first, but Thrace was also intelligent. He had probably thought about this match. When they faced off, Thrace moved slowly, trying to corner. He did not care about speed. He knew that one hit from him could end the match. So he was patient, cutting off her escape routes, moving her toward the edge of the arena. Understood what he was doing. She let him do it. She moved toward the corner, and when Thrace moved to box her in completely, she moved straight up. She jumped, something that did very poorly because of their heavy armor. She used Thrace's own body as a springboard, pushing off his armored shoulder and flying over him. Now she was behind him. Thrace turned, but slowly. His exoskeleton gave him strength, but it also made him stiff, attacked the joints in his armor, the places where flexibility was necessary. She targeted his neck guard, his wrist connections, his ankle supports. She did not try to break his armor. She just disabled it piece by piece. When the match was over, Thrace could barely move. His exoskeleton was still intact, but it was locked up, frozen in place by precise strikes. 3 wins had 3 real wins. In the 4th round she faced. The entire academy went quiet when the matchup was announced. Was one of their human competitors, and he had been winning through strength and aggression. He was larger than and he had trained hard, but he had not trained the way he had trained. Came at her with fury. He wanted to end this quickly and violently. He wanted to prove that he was the superior human, but fury is not the same as skill. Slipped under his attacks and used his own momentum against him, the way her grandfather had taught her. Fell hard, he got back up and tried again. He was stronger, but was better. She understood the geometry of combat. She understood physics. She understood how to use an opponent's own strength as a weapon against them. In the end, was the one on the ground, and was the one standing. The final round came down to against a warrior named, were rare at the academy. They came from a water world and had adapted to low-pressure environments. Moved like water himself, flowing from one attack to another. He was fast and unpredictable. But had studied him. She had watched all his matches. She knew that he always began with the same 3 moves. She knew that he favored his left side slightly because his right arm had an old injury. She knew that he got frustrated when he could not end a match quickly. The final match lasted nearly 10 minutes. Both fighters moved with incredible speed and precision. The crowd was on their feet. This was not supposed to happen. A human was not supposed to be competitive against an advanced alien warrior in the final round. But kept fighting. She did not get tired and she did not make mistakes. When tried to use his speed to confuse her, she stayed calm and focused on his patterns. When he got aggressive, she defended and waited for the opening. When the opening came, she took it. Was faster in that moment, her strike was more accurate, fell. The training arena went completely silent. Had won, the weakest species in the galaxy, the joke of the academy, had won the full spectrum challenge. She had beaten the best from every other species. She stood in the center of the arena, breathing hard, looking up at the observation booth where Commander Vex was watching. The warrior was not moving. She was just watching with something that might have been respect. Commander Vex's office was cold and efficient. There were no decorations on the walls, no personal items on her desk. Just a terminal, a chair, and the warrior who had judged for so long. Stood in front of that desk, unsure what to expect. She had been called here an hour after her victory. Nobody had congratulated her. Nobody had talked to her. The other cadets had given her space, as if her victory had made her dangerous. Sit, Vex commanded, sat. I want to know how you did this, Vex said. It was not a question, it was a demand. Took a breath. I studied my opponents. I learned their weaknesses. I learned how their bodies work. I learned how to use their own strength against them. Show me your training logs, Vex said. Pulled up the files on her personal device and handed it over. Vex looked through them carefully. She read about observations. She saw the diagrams had drawn. She read the notes had written about each alien species she had studied. Vex made a low sound in her throat. You taught yourself biomechanics and tactical analysis. You did not come here with this knowledge. You created it yourself. My grandfather taught me how to think about fighting, said. He showed me that strength is just one part of the equation. Vex put down the device and looked at for a long moment. I am going to tell you something, the commander said. I have trained warriors for 300 years. I have seen the strongest species in the galaxy rise and fall. I have seen empires built on military might, and I have never seen a fighter as good as you with so little natural advantage. Why, asked. Why am I really here? Why did the academy put me in this program? Vex turned to look out the window at the training grounds below. Do you know the saying about predators and prey? She asked. Said nothing. It goes like this, Vex continued. The most dangerous prey is the one that is underestimated, the prey that learns to hunt, because it learns to survive where other creatures would die. It learns to be smarter because it cannot rely on strength. Vex turned back to face. Humans are from a Earth has gravity that is higher than most planets. It has predators. It has weather that kills. It has diseases. Humans adapted to survive all of this. You are a species that learned to adapt to the worst conditions, but we told you that you were weak. We told you that you could not fight. We limited your access to combat roles. Why asked again? Vex stood up and walked to a file cabinet. She pulled out an old document and handed it to. It was a treaty, an ancient one. The document was written in a language had to translate through her device. The treaty stated that humanity would be limited in military advancement. It said that human combat capabilities were to be monitored and restricted. It said that humans should not be allowed to advance beyond basic defensive roles. This treaty was signed 400 years ago, Vex said, when humans first joined the galactic community. It was signed by the major powers who were afraid of what humans might become if they were given proper training and resources. They looked at your history of warfare, your capacity for violence, and they decided that you could not be trusted. That is discrimination, said. Yes, Vex agreed. It is old discrimination. It is legal discrimination supported by the highest governments, but it is discrimination nonetheless. How did you let this happen? Asked, and there was anger in her voice. Because I was a soldier, Vex said, and soldiers follow orders, but I have been a soldier for 300 years, and in that time I have learned that orders can be wrong. Over the next few days, something changed at the academy. Instructors who had ignored suddenly wanted to work with her. Cadets who had called her weak now asked her questions about her training techniques. Other human cadets began coming to her, asking if she could teach them. Started informal training sessions in empty parts of the academy. She taught other humans what she had learned, but she also taught mixed groups of aliens who wanted to understand her methods. The academy tried to shut it down at first, but Vex intervened. She declared that methods were innovative and valuable, and that the academy should support advanced training programs for all cadets who wanted to participate. Things began to change, slowly at first, then faster. But change always creates enemies. One knight was summoned to the Secure Communications Center. There was a message for her. It was from the Galactic Defense Coalition, the military authority that oversaw all the planets and their academies. The message was brief. Admiral, one of the highest-ranking officers in the entire galaxy, would be arriving at the academy. He was coming to investigate what had happened. He was coming to look into how a human had managed to win the full-spectrum challenge. Knew, even before she read further, that he was not coming to congratulate her. That night she did not sleep. She thought about Earth. She thought about her grandfather. She thought about all the things people had told her she could not do. And she prepared herself for what was coming next. She did not know exactly what form it would take, but she knew that her victory had threatened something powerful. She knew that people in high positions did not want humans to be strong. They had built entire systems to keep humanity limited. Admiral arrived on a military transport that descended through the atmosphere of Earth Station Prime like a predator landing on prey. He was tall and thin, with perfect posture and cold eyes that seemed to calculate everything they looked at. He had served in the military for 150 years. He had never lost a political battle, and he had absolutely no interest in the achievements of a single human cadet. The formal hearing was scheduled for 3 days after his arrival. Was given notice that she would need to present herself for questioning regarding unorthodox training methods and questions about the legitimacy of her victory. The Academy's main administrative chamber was filled with officers, instructors, and representatives from various governments. Commander Vex sat on one side. Admiral sat on the other, stood in the center facing them both. Began without any greeting or courtesy. Your victory in the full-spectrum challenge has created problems, he said. Questions have been raised about whether your win was legitimate, whether you used prohibited techniques, whether you had outside assistance, whether you even deserved to be in this academy at all. I won by the rules of the challenge, said. Her voice was steady. You are human, said, as if that explained everything. Humans are not designed for military combat roles. Your physiology is fragile. Your strength is minimal. Your endurance, while better than most species assume, is still limited compared to proper military-grade warriors. I defeated every opponent I faced, said. I followed all the rules. Rules can be broken, said. Rules can be circumvented. I am requesting that your victory be reviewed and annulled. Furthermore, I am recommending that you be expelled from this academy. Humans have no place in advanced military training. This academy is for serious warriors, not for social experiments. A murmur went through the room, felt her chest tighten, but she did not show it. Commander Vex stood up. Admiral, I trained this cadet. I watched her fights. Her victory was legitimate. Her methods were unconventional, but they were not prohibited. She used intelligence and planning, which are valuable traits in any military officer. Intelligence? Laughed. It was a harsh sound. A human using intelligence to compensate for weakness is not the same as genuine military capability. Humans are emotional, they are unpredictable, they have poor decision-making skills. You should know this, Vex. You have 300 years of experience. You should know that humans are inferior in nearly every way. The words hung in the air like poison. Felt something crack inside her, but she did not break. She had been preparing for this her entire life, even if she had not known it. Then something happened. A young cadet named Martin, one of the ones who had been training with, stood up in the observation section. I object, Martin said. I trained with Hayes. She taught me more about combat in 2 weeks than I learned in the entire previous year. Admiral, you are speaking from prejudice, not from fact. Turned to look at Martin with contempt. A vouching for a human, how touching, that does not change anything. But Martin was not alone. One by one, cadets who had trained with stood up. The named stood. A warrior named stood. A group of human cadets stood together. Even who had lost to in competition stood up and said that had fought with honor and skill. The chamber erupted into chaos. Officers and instructors argued. Some agreed with, many did not. Raised his voice above the noise. This is ridiculous. A human does not belong in military leadership roles. If we allow humans to advance, if we allow them to think they are equals to proper warriors, we will see them attempting to lead operations across the galaxy. We will see them commanding alien forces. This cannot be allowed. Some species are meant to serve. Some species are meant to be protected. Humans are in that category. They are not dangerous. They are fragile creatures who happen to get lucky once. That was when spoke. I want to say something, she said. Her voice cut through the noise. The room went quiet. You are wrong, said, looking directly at. Not about everything. Maybe humans are fragile. Maybe we are not as physically strong as other species, but you are wrong about what that means. She walked forward, closer to the Admiral. My grandfather told me something. He said that the strongest warriors are the ones who have to think. Because when you cannot rely on brute strength, you learn to use your mind. You learn to adapt. You learn to survive where others would die. Humans come from we learn to survive there. We learn to work together. We learn to be smarter because it was the only way we could live. Poetic, said coldly, but irrelevant. It is not irrelevant, said. You say humans want to dominate. You say we are dangerous and emotional and unpredictable. But that is a lie. Humans want to survive. We want to live. We want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We do not want to conquer anyone. We just do not want to be told we are less than anyone else. Stood up. This is finished. I am going to the High Council with a full report. This academy will hear from me again, and your future, human, will be decided by those who actually have the authority to understand these matters. He walked out of the chamber without waiting for a response. The hearing was over. That night could not sleep. She had said what she needed to say, but she did not know if it would matter, was powerful. He had the ear of the military leadership. He had centuries of experience and authority. All had was a victory and a refusal to give up. She went to the training facility, the facility where she had spent so many hours preparing. She hit the training dummy, working through her techniques, keeping her mind focused on what she could control. Commander Vex found her there at midnight. You spoke well in the hearing, Vex said. It did not matter, said. Has already decided he just wanted to humiliate me. Maybe, Vex said. But you made the other cadets think. You made the instructors question. And you made me remember why I became a soldier in the first place. Vex paused. I am going to petition the High Council myself. I am going to tell them that humans represent untapped military potential. I am going to tell them that the old treaties are wrong. I cannot guarantee they will listen, but I will make sure your voice reaches them. Looked at the older warrior. Why, she asked. Why would you do that? Because, Vex said, in 300 years, I have learned that the most valuable warriors are the ones who have something to prove. And you, human, have everything to prove. 3 weeks later, a new directive came from the Galactic High Council. It was broadcast across every military channel, every news network, and every government database in known space. All species restrictions on military advancement and leadership roles were to be immediately lifted. The treaties that had limited humanity to non-combat positions were declared outdated and discriminatory. They were void, null, no longer in effect. The directive went further. It said that diversity in military forces was essential. It said that different perspectives and approaches to combat strategy would strengthen the entire galactic defense system. It said that humanity, like all other species, had the right to pursue any role in the military that they were qualified for. The Academy exploded into activity. Human applicants began arriving within days, young humans who had heard about and wanted to join the military. Some came from Earth. Some came from the various human colonies spread across the galaxy. They came with hope and determination, something that had been missing before. Was promoted to senior cadet and given a position as a junior instructor. Her first class was mixed, with humans and aliens learning together. The Academy had officially changed its training structure. No more separate programs based on species. No more limitations. Just training based on ability and desire to learn. Her first day teaching stood in front of the training facility with 12 cadets. 6 were human. 6 were aliens from different species. They looked at her with mixture of curiosity and uncertainty. "I am going to teach you combat," said. "Real combat, not the combat that is easy because you are naturally strong, but the kind of combat that requires you to think, to adapt, to use every advantage you have no matter what you are." She showed them basic techniques. She showed them how to analyze an opponent. She showed them how to find weakness in strength. She showed them that every body type, every species had advantages and disadvantages. Understanding your own advantages was how you survived. A human cadet named Lisa asked her, "Did you really break the training deck with your bare hand?" Smiled, "No," she said. "I broke an opponent. The training deck was just collateral damage to the real system breaking. The system that said humans could not fight. The system that said we were too weak. That system broke. And it broke because I refused to accept what people told me I was." Over the next month, the Academy transformed, not just in structure, but in culture. Cadets from different species trained together, learned from each other. They learned balance and precision from the humans. The humans learned strength and power applications from the learned tactical thinking from analyzing opponents much faster and much slower than themselves. Teaching style became popular. Other instructors asked her to lead workshops. The Academy's leadership recognized that her methods were revolutionary. 3 months after failed hearing, a new assignment came through official channels. Was being reassigned. She was being given command of a small unit. The unit would consist of humans and aliens working together. Their mission was a diplomatic assignment to the border regions where tensions were rising between various factions. The assignment was dangerous. It was complex. It was exactly the kind of mission that would have been unthinkable for a human 6 months ago. But was ready. She gathered her team. She had selected each member carefully. She had a human warrior named James who had become one of her best students. She had a tactical officer named Helena. She had a weapons specialist named Crew. She had a scout named Vex Jr., named after Commander Vex, who had become a mentor and friend. The night before they departed, Commander Vex came to see at the transport dock. "I want you to know something," the old said. "When I first saw you, I thought you were a waste of my time. I thought you were here because of some political decision I did not understand. But you changed my mind, not with words, with actions. You did something that few beings ever do. You made me question everything I believed." "Thank you," said. "Do not thank me yet," Vex said. "What comes next will be harder than anything you have faced at the Academy. Out there, politics matter, fear matters. People will not want to see your mission succeed. Prepare for that." Nodded, she understood. They launched the transport the next morning, stood on the observation deck and watched Earth Station Prime fall away. She watched the Academy fade into the distance. She thought about where she had come from and how far she had traveled. She thought about and his cruelty. He had become one of her best friends after she beat him. He was serving in another unit now, but he still sent her messages. He told her that her victory had made him a better soldier. She thought about the cadets who had stood up for her in the hearing. She thought about all the humans and aliens who had decided that change was possible. Most of all, she thought about her grandfather. He was still on Earth, growing older, but she had sent him a message before she left. She had told him that he was right, that the strongest warriors were the ones who learned to think. He had sent back a simple response. I always knew you would do this, make us proud up there. Would do that? She would show the galaxy what humans could do when given the chance. She would prove that strength came in many forms. She would prove that a person's value was not determined by their size or their natural weapons, but by their determination and their character. The transport carried her toward a new horizon, a new mission, a new chapter. Behind her, the academy continued. More humans enrolled, more mixed teams trained together. More people began to understand that the old system had been wrong. But it was who had started it, who had refused to accept her limitations, who had taken the system that was designed to keep her weak and shattered it with nothing but skill, intelligence, and pure stubborn determination. She was no longer the joke of the academy. She was the beginning of something new. She was a symbol of what humans could be when nobody was allowed to tell them who they had to be. The stars waited for her, and Hayes, the girl who was supposed to be too weak to survive, walked toward them with her head held high. The next morning, a message came through official channels. The Galactic High Council had received petitions regarding Hayes' case. They had decided to launch a full investigation. Everything was about to change again. But this time was not afraid. Hayes had just broken one of those systems, and now the system was going to fight back. She stood at the window of the academy and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the academy, beyond Earth, the real conflict was beginning. And she was not backing down. The silence broke, the crowd erupted. Some cadets were cheering, some looked angry, some looked confused like they did not believe what they had just seen. Walked out of the arena with her head held high. Everything was about to change. She could feel it. The system that had been designed to keep humans out had just broken under the weight of one person's determination. And everything the Academy thought it knew was wrong. Tomorrow, the Academy would see what a human could really do. Tomorrow, the joke was going to end.